Hi everyone, we're in the shop again today and I'm going to show you how to change your blade on a table saw. Y'all follow along. This is a real simple thing to do and almost every table saw will be the same way. So y'all follow along and see what we do. When you're working with any table saw, the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that the saw is unplugged. If it's not unplugged, you can cut your hand off. So I'm going to take away my fence. I'm going to lay it to the side. Okay. And right now my blade is lowered. And so I'm going to raise my blade so that I can get my wrenches in there to undo this. First, let me crank this blade up. I always like to crank it as high as I can get it, okay? Now, when you do this, this is a 10-inch table saw, and it's gonna have a plate here, a guard, that you're gonna have to remove. Most of them will have one on the right. Sometimes you'll have to remove this entire plate. But this one has just got a couple of screws in it, so I'm just gonna unscrew it. And what I do with my screws is I lay them right here in one of my tracks. That way it won't roll off and I know where it's at. Take the other one on the other end off. And do the same thing for that one. Top one, bottom one, closest, farther. All right, I'm just gonna lift this little guard out and I'm gonna lay it over here to one side. Now I can get in here and I can work. If your table saw is an older saw like this one, and this is just a small one, it's about 18 inches by a little over 2 foot. This is a small shop table saw. If it's a small one, what you want to do, sometimes they'll come with a wrench, but this was one I bought in a garage sale. I've been using it for years. But it's time to change the blade. This one's just had it. So all you're going to need is you're going to need a crescent wrench and you're going to need another wrench. Now you can use an open end wrench if you can find one to fit your blade down there or your nut. But what I use the wrench for is I'm going to lay it. When this thing is on, the blade spins and cuts towards the person pushing the wood through it, okay? It's gonna spin this away. And so what I'm gonna do is, because I'm gonna unloosen that, I'm gonna be pulling from here to here, I'm gonna slide a wrench right here into a tooth, okay? I'm gonna move you around so you can see. So I've got my wrench in here, my blade can't rotate, and I'm gonna use a crescent wrench and I'm gonna set it to fit my nut. I'm just gonna loosen it right towards me, okay? Keep that in there. Unscrew my nut on my arbor bolt. Sometimes these are a little tight. Some saws you have. I've got another saw right over there, and that one has a larger workspace when you're changing a blade. This one's sort of small. But you're just going to take that nut off, lay it right here, and then you're going to slide. I just slid my saw blade out, and I held my washer because I'm going to put that back on. Now this one is a 10-inch blade. You can see it there, 10-inch with a 5/8 arbor, and it's a 36 tooth blade. So I went to Harbor Freight. And I bought a new one. Now this one is a 40 tooth carbide blade. It's a 10-inch blade, 4 table saws, and it has a 5/8 arbor. You've got to make sure that you buy the right blade that fits the arbor in your saw, okay? Let me trim this one out. I have an audience today. His name is Lego. He's watching me because he thinks I'm gonna throw him a milk bone dog biscuit. I will in a little bit. So I'm just gonna cut this one out. Okay, so I've got my new blade. Now, in this case, the blade has a rotation arrow that goes, you can see the arrow right here, rotation arrow. So, and I know it's gonna cut towards me, so my writing on this blade is gonna go in the saw facing the left because it's gonna spin toward the person who's using it to cut the wood, okay? Now, I'm gonna slide it down in here. Ease it down in there over my nut. You can see it's holding it there now. All right. I'm gonna take my washer, and these things are, you can see it's concaved. You want the flat side up against your saw blade. The flat side against your saw blade. Then you want to take the nut, and you want to tighten it back down. I can get it started. Ah, he found his ball. He's already chewed up his coconut, so he's found a ball. A while ago, he's trying to poke a hole in a basketball. I can just tighten it as much as I can tighten it by my fingers, okay? Now, it's semi-tight. Now, with you tightening this blade, you cannot hold this blade with a wrench like we did to take it off. So what you have to do, so just grab it with your gloves. Take a leather glove, take your wrench, put it down in there on the nut, and tighten it down. And you want to be pretty snug because you do not want this thing flying out. Okay? Now, if I decide to take it off, I can reverse the process and put this on here, use my wrench and take it off. Okay. Take off that welding glove. Now, I've got my blade secure. I'm going to lower it back down a little. Just a little. And before I test it, I want to put my guard back on. I'm going to take and put my screw here, my bottom screw here. Okay, got that tightened down. Take everything and remove everything from the top of my saw. I'm going to plug it up, but before I do, I'm going to lower it all the way. And also, before I plug it up, I'm going to make sure that my start button is in the off position. On, off. Got it off. All right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it up. Lower that back down to the ground. Raise it up. and I'm gonna turn it on. And there's my new saw blade, so now I can rip some 2x4s and things that I need to rip and get started working on some more projects. Guys, I hope this helped. Just be safe when you're working on one of these table saws. Make sure it's unplugged when you're changing the blades, and make sure after you get through using it, blow it off real good with your air compressor. These will last you a long time. I've had this one probably 20 years, and it was an older one when I bought it, and this one it'll last another 20 years as long as you take care of it. And guys, make sure that after you get done with these, that you unplug them and lower your blade back down so that nobody will get into it. Okay, guys? Lower it down and make sure you unplug it. Have a good day. Like and subscribe.